Hello everyone, welcome back to Nunar, and today we are going to be talking about Russia, but not just Russia, not just beef with Ukraine, because we've already done that. We're going to be talking about different Russian beef. Russia's beefing with someone else. That's what I'm trying to say. And beefing with Georgia, that's what we're going to talk about. Quick disclaimer. Someone is being very inconsiderate next to me, and there are a lot of cars on the road. So if you hear background noises, that's the reason. If you don't, it's all good. But let's talk about Georgia. This takes us all the way to the end of World War One, where Russia was in shambles. It had lost. It had lost World War One, and yes, I count it loss because it didn't take part in the Treaty of Versailles, the discussion, so it doesn't count as a win for them. And it had been absolutely destroyed by the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. It was one of the. It was arguably no, not arguably. It was the harshest treaty. It was even harsher than the Treaty of Versailles, which is hard to top. I know, but they did anyway. So it was just trying to get itself back again, you know. So it didn't have time to man many little countries. So Georgia got its independence for a short amount of time, and this happened in 1918, and then it extended until 1921. Now, in 1921, uh, Russia had finally, settled itself. It was good. It was good again. So they invaded Georgia and the region of Abkhazia, and they declared them Soviet Socialist Republics. The next year, 1922, the South Ossetia Autonomous Oblast was created in Georgia. Now, remember the names of Abkhazia and Ossetia South, because they are going to pop up multiple times. You could argue they are the basis of the conflict. Now, this really doesn't happen again for a while. There's no major conflict for a while, no major events, because the Roaring Twenties were in full swing, economies were on the rise, America was actually being a bit sensical. Then the Wall Street crash happened, and then 2 years later, started again. Abkhazia's status was demoted from a Soviet Socialist Republic to an autonomous republic within Georgia. So it's now a part of Georgia. You could understand why some people were definitely annoyed by this. And you can see why. You can see how Abkhazia's villain arc started. Now, in 1990, South Ossetia declared its independence from Georgia. You see, there had been World War II, the Cold War, everything was all good, but then at the end of the Cold War, the USSR was in severe political instability and also economic, but yeah, mostly political. So it was the perfect time for South Ossetia to declare its independence. And this was helped even more when, on April 9th, 1991, April 9th will be the day that Georgia celebrates its independence. Probably, maybe. Actually, before we continue, when is Georgia Day? And I'm not talking about the state of Georgia, I'm talking about the country of Georgia. Okay, so Independence Day for Georgia is actually celebrated on the 26th of May 1918, because that is when it originally got independence. So it isn't celebrated on April 9th, which is something that I've just found out. The more you know. Maybe insert meme here. Okay, let's continue. So yeah, Georgia declared its independence again, and civil war breaks out because some people were obviously not okay with this. And President Ziv- Zviad Gamsakhurdia, I'm so sorry if I mispronounce a lot of these names, is deposed as president. The same year, Abkhazia declares its independence from Georgia, and that starts like a 2 year civil war. Civil War, Civil War Part Two, Electric Boogaloo. So in October, Edward Shevardna- Shev- Shevardnadze Nadze- Shevardnadze is elected to lead Georgia. Now he will stay until like 2000, and he is elected in 1995. He's elected in 2000, and he's gonna stay for a little bit. So in September of 1993, and this came as a shock to almost everyone. The Abkhazian separatist forces actually managed to defeat the Georgian military. That, see, that means either the Abkhazian forces were really good, or the Georgian military was really bad. Or maybe it's even both. So the next month, Georgia joined the Commonwealth of the independent states. If it matters to our story, to our little story, you'll have to find out. Now, in May of 1994, there's a ceasefire that's agreed upon. And there's a ceasefire, right? And Russia deploys peacekeeping forces to the end. And then again, this really doesn't surface again for a while as an issue. Then after 9/11, I think everything in and around the Middle East just gone. So tense. And Georgia is in close proximity. So in October, the fighting resumed, and Russia was helping Abkhazia as it thought that Georgia was harboring the Chechen rebels. Georgia obviously denied that claim. The validity of it is something that may be lost in history. Why not? Now, in September of the year 2002, Putin, who's president by the way, Boris Yeltsin no more, and there was this guy, Mendeleev. There was this guy that was in between Putin's first term and second term. I think it was Mend something. Dmitry, oh, not Mendeleev, Dmitry Medvedev. He was the third president, and his term was exactly 4 years in between Putin's first and second. Although, oh yeah, yes, 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 yes. Okay, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, Medvedev. He's the dude that was in between Putin and Putin. So, uh, he's the president now. Before this, it was Boris Yeltsin. He was president during some of this, but now it's Putin. And he sent a letter to Kofi Annan and the Security Council and the Organization for Cooperation for Security and Cooperation in Europe, saying that Georgia has to respond to these accusations of harboring Chechen rebels or Russia will fight. So the next month, a year after these claims started, Shevardnadze promised to work with Russia to fight the rebels. And in November, he's forced to leave office. November the next year, he's forced to leave office in the Rose Revolution. So that brings us to July 2005. We're about halfway through this story. Yes, the amount of events that happened between in the last 90 years, it happens in the next eight. Now, yeah, July 2005. There's a term that's reached that means that Russia will withdraw itself from some Soviet era military bases. And nearly a year later, the tensions rise again when Georgia demands that the peacekeepers have visas in South Ossetia. Now, November 12th, 2006, there's a referendum that is held that South Ossetians overwhelmingly demand independence. This brings us to November of the next year, 2007, in which Russia announces that it's withdrawn its troops in Georgia, but it retains a peacekeeping presence in Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Again, that brings us to 2008, in which a whole bunch of stuff happens. Like, this is the main chunk of the story. This is where most of the story happens. It's more, it's almost the exact same amount as literally all the other years that this conflict is in combined. So let's begin. April 3rd, in 2008, the NATO members in a summit at Bucharest, capital of Romania, deferred the decision on Georgia and Ukraine's admittance into 2008. As we can see, Ukraine still ain't in NATO. I think the deferred decision has been a lot longer than 2008. So on April 21st, Georgia accused Russia of shooting down an unmanned drone over Abkhazia, and Russia, of course, denies the claim. 8 days later, Russia sends more troops to Abkhazia. So to counter what they say is Georgia's attack plans. May 26th, 2008, a UN investigation concludes that the drone was shot down by a missile from a Russian fighter jet. Now, five five days later, Russia sent several hundred unarmed troops to Abkhazia, saying that they were going to repair railways, although Georgia accused Russia of military intervention. Now, August is where the main chunk of the story happens. Now, and on the 7th and the 8th, Georgian President Mikhail Saakashvili sends troops to South Ossetia. Russia responds by moving its troops to the border and flying aircraft over Georgia and starting airstrikes. The next day, the US, UK, and NATO called for a ceasefire by both Russia and Georgia. Next day, a delegation from the EU and the US diplomats head to Georgia to resolve escalating tensions. This is like the July crisis, something happening every day. August 10th, Russia moves tanks and soldiers through South Ossetia into Georgia proper, advancing towards the city of Gori. August 12th, Russia calls a halt to its military incursion into Georgia and agrees to a 6 point diplomatic push for peace. This is pronounced by French President Nicolas Sarkozy, which, let me be honest, does it sound French? No. Is he actually French? Yes, actually, he is French. Although he is of Hungarian origin and also Greek. That's why his name doesn't sound quote unquote French. So, and remember Dmitry Medvedev? I just mentioned him. Yeah, he was president during this time too. This explains why, actually, there's some peacekeeping done because there's a more level-headed politician. Now, on the next day, August 13th, Mr. W. Bush announces a plan to send humanitarian aid to Georgia. And then Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice was sent to France and Georgia for diplomatic mission. Then Saakashvili, on the 15th, signs a ceasefire. It's brokered by Sarkozy. August 16th, Medvedev signs the agreement. Now, on August 22nd, Russia partially withdraws its troops from Georgia as part of the agreement. Russia maintains soldiers at checkpoints near this disputed territory zone. And then, in August 26th, 2008, when we all thought this thing was finally gonna be over, Russia adds fuel to the fire. When Medvedev sends an order recognizing the independence of Ossetia and Abkhazia. And Bush released a statement saying, and I quote, "The United States condemns the decision by the Russian president to recognize as independent states the Georgian regions of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. The territorial integrity and borders of Georgia must be respected, and just as those of Russia or any other country." And that's all for 2008. For the rest of the year, we were just getting along. But that takes us 2009, July, where the UN observers, after 16 years, leave Georgia. The mission wasn't extended because Russia vetoed it. In September of 2009, a report from the EU fact-finding mission determines that the tensions was on part for both Russia and Georgia. They both contributed to the 5-day conflict. Georgia's attack on the South Ossetian capital of I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. I'll put it in the pinned comment. On the night of August 7th, seemed to start the conflict. And then, January 27th, 2016, The Hague-based ICC authorizes a probe for war crimes committed by Russia, Georgia, and South Ossetia during the conflict. And that's where we stand right now. So, uh, that's where we stand right now. Clearly, Russia has gone to beef with Ukraine more. And yeah, I guess that's it. So I thank you for watching, and until next time,